Peace, peace. It is I, the Cool, coming live with Mental Arts Dojo 03. This week we got the guest of honor is Greg Newman, IT. Stay down. Peace, peace, IT. Yes, sir. Banger of the year.
What's up, man?
What it do, IT? How you doing, brother?
What's up, bro? How are you? I'm doing well, thank you.
Good, man. Nice to see you. You know what I'm saying? 4 weeks later, tables are turned.
I know, man. I know they grow up so fast, man. What are you doing over here?
Man, it's
Drinks,
crazy.
bro.
I adopted the whole drip too. You know, I see
Listen,
video,
man. You know, I'm just saying, I need that Sprite check. You know,
sir. Yes, sir.
That's what I'm saying. You know, how's your day going?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. It's been super interested in this. You know, the whole time, just kind of excited to see what's going on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
How about you, man? How's things been going with you?
Yeah, I've been well, man. I've been well. Just primarily right now, it's just focusing on the energy, or at least the gear I've been in is this 2021 rev up, man. Like, it's just focusing solely on the fact that most people are like, well, you know, 2021 is around the corner and this and that. I'm going to wait to see how I feel. And I think there was a point of this year when I thought the same thing. And I was like, let me just see how I feel. But then it's just like, there was something that dawned on me where I was like, if I don't pick up this momentum right now and make that change in my life, or these minor changes in my life at this point, maybe it's not going to look like the way I think it's going to look like. You know, you do what you always done, you get what you always got, you know? So in a way, I kind of wanted to switch my perspective and say, you know, 31 days in December, as far as I'm concerned, I got 27 left to go crazy, you know? And like, and do everything in my power to be able to honor the people who support what I do. I don't want to, you know, mistreat my supporters by sitting here and letting them dangle for so long, you know, for what they appreciate. And I was just reminded of that very beautifully throughout this process of relieving this verse, you know, of releasing this verse. And I was like, man, okay, like, this is people are ready, you know, and that makes me feel very encouraged to use these next, you know, as much time as I possibly can wring out of 2020 and change the energy for the year to come, you know. So that was just, you know, that's just my mental process for the way that I feel, you know. And so it's just all these, I mean, I just look at life, man. Life is a very interesting thing.
So. Fourth quarter, Greg Newman. You know what I'm saying? That's what's going on right here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, you know, you do. I'm doing everything I possibly can when I can, man. And like, it's just one of those things you have to genuinely ask yourself. Like, when you look at the mirror, you're like, am I really doing everything I possibly can? And like, there's multiple times when I felt like I didn't have that answer for myself. And then I found myself in a position where one day it just kind of came to me. And it was just like, you can do more. Like, be honest with yourself. You know, can you do more? And so once I answered myself and I was like, you know, yeah, there's more work to be done. I can do better, you know. And then from there, it was just like, you know, that's just mentally telling yourself. And then it was translating that thought, that potential energy into kinetic energy and making it physical, you know. And so, yeah, now everything is really just in that physical phase of just putting things down and making things move, you know. So that's it, bro. You know what I mean? How about yourself, man? What you been up to?
Just thinking about that watermelon juice. You know what I'm saying? I gotta slip a few jokes in there. You know what I mean?
Oh, man, bro. Just trust me, you don't want the steam, bro. That's how we going. See, I came in this super on some, you know, I saged my phone before I came in here. You know what I mean? You can't get me.
Nah,
you want to take it there, we can go there. You know what I mean?
Nah,
I'm playing.
But in all honesty, though, you know, like seeing what you've been doing, especially towards, you know, gearing up towards the end. A lot of people drop out of the race. You know what I mean? Not everybody has the rocket power to kind of push down and keep going. You know what I mean? And even just seeing that from your everyday life, you know, just on Instagram even, and you know, speaking behind the scene and just kind of seeing what you got going on is very inspiring to see something like that, right? Especially with this verse too, because for me personally, hearing this verse, I mean, I've heard some crazy bars from Greg Newman. You know what I mean? Behind the scenes, right? Usually we get that high energy Greg Newman. You know what I'm saying? The lyrical bangers, not to box it in, but that's kind of, we get, you know, like Stay Down. You know, we get that type of energy. You know what I mean? With something like this, I feel like it was a different pen game. It was like you honed in on a different angle from the way you came in on it. You know what I mean? And I feel like it was something that was very, very inspiring. I feel like there's a lot to unpack.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate you for taking the moment to listen and intently listen. And I think what's interesting is that throughout the process of, you know, creation, there's things that you put on display and there's things that you do have the capacity to execute, but just haven't found it's either the right time or the right confidence or the right feel to be able to say, hey, this is that moment. And and there was something about a lot of different sounds and throughout the creation of the project that I've been building, it's pushed me into a place where it was like, you know, try everything. You know, nothing's off the table. You know, every time you thought you weren't able to do A or B or C, you've done them all, and D as well. So because of that realization, it's like, well, maybe there are things that I shouldn't be. Just don't purposefully not traverse into certain territories because of uncertainty. Like, don't let uncertainty stop you from, you know, whatever your maximum capability is. And so I love jazz. I love lo-fi. I listen to the same. I think people like think I wake up and like play heavy metal or something and brush my teeth to like just, you know, just like, I think people are like, yeah, he definitely like, he puts on DMX and he's just like, you know, in the shower, just, you know, DMX. And then after that, he's putting on just something just crazy high resonant. Like he's just listening to music where people are just yelling all the time. But like, I'm listening to just, I don't know, man, like trap beat, like
Ultimate
EDM. Yeah, like I wake up and it's like, you know, and it's just like, and I love that record, you know, but it's just like there's other things, there's other things that there's other things that kind of like I'm interested in, you know, I'm interested in jazz, I'm interested in these other places, and they bring, what's beautiful about those spaces is those spaces bring out other things in me that are uncharacteristic, you know. So I think it's very important, at least my approach initially was like, I do want to establish a baseline for what I'm focused on. So when people think, okay, Greg Newman, they can have an idea. So I think it's one of those things that people get lost in is like, you mention an artist and there might not be a sound that comes to mind, right? There might not be that signature style or signature flavor or the whatever. And that kind of is more important to me to establish first. So people have the potential of saying, okay, Greg Newman, I could probably go in for this, which lines up, you know, the foundation for that shock value. Because, you know, in a way, I think through that, you can then show them this completely other side of yourself. And people be like, I didn't know that existed, you know? And then I can go right back to giving people the #1 combo with cheese that they wanted, you know? And like, and having these tools in the toolkit, you know what I'm saying?
And I feel like even just like brushing up on it is, it's something that not everybody can do that, even in terms of Greg Newman's style. You know what I mean? Like not everybody can do that. And that's something that I feel like is really dope, especially to an artist. Like to me, when I see that, it's dope to see somebody who's so comfortable with pushing past their boundaries and also so comfortable with just being themselves and being exploratory, like experimental. You know what I mean? Like that's something that to me, I see it as like what every artist should strive to be. You know what I'm saying? And that's a fact. Like,
thank you, bro. Thank you, man. And I think, again, like versatility, like, is something that, because when we find something that's working, we more often than not don't want to deviate or change from the thing that's working. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of get crossed up in life, is like, you know, I'm doing something, it's working, let me not move from this space. Let me not. And in a way, you kind of, instead of going with flexibility, you kind of lean in on this rigidity aspect and end up being very brittle in your process, you know? And so from there, it just seemed like one of those circumstances where I'm like, okay, people expect this one sound, or people expect, like, you know, if I'm going to send Greg a beat pack, it has to be nothing but these fat, distorted 808, like, and now, mind you, I have ideas for those things, and like, that's definitely like something that I feel like motivates me, because when I'm writing these records, I'm thinking about the live scenario. I'm thinking about how do these translate performatively. And there's a couple folks on here who have, you know, performed alongside me or been in situations where we've experienced each other's shows, and these certain types of production translate really well for my format and for my energy that I'm bringing to the table. So in a way, I'm leaning into the idea of like, how are these going to translate live? And then at the same time, I'm like, you know, how is this going to sound in the ear when you're doing other things, you know, when you're working out, or when you're on your way to do something that you're motivated about, you know, and you're building up, you know, that kind of energy. So I think those circumstances definitely fit, but I didn't want to be too brittle. I didn't want people to be like, you know, oh, Greg's good for this one thing, you know? And so that's why these certain verses, such as this verse, such as Blades, like, made me feel like, okay, you know, I wrote a couple different versions of the verse, and I was like, okay, I'm happy with this, you know, like, this is fine. And yeah, just move forward with it, you know, and then see if people enjoy it for what it is, because it's no longer mine when I put it out, you know?
Bars. You know what I mean? Bars. Bars. Let's keep it real, you know?
Sure.
And yeah, 100%. So transitioning into this verse, Blades, is it possible that we can get a kind of live performance, kind of show it to the people?
Yeah. Yeah, I believe we can run through it real quick, see if I got it all on top. I wrote it like 48 hours ago. Like, I wrote it like the day before.
The turnaround time was crazy. Like, straight up, like, you know what I mean? Like, when I got that phone call, I was like, what?
Yeah, so I like wrote it like 2 days ago. So if I make any mistakes, I definitely apologize. But it's as of late, I've been seeing my dreams and monologues. In terms of bars, I yawn while I'm scribbling intent and swoop on my pen. Then and nodding off. You would think I was seeing visions. You would think I was seeing rhythms, but not at all. Everything was calm. Hold on, I got it, bro. Hold on, I got to read this, bro. Because this is too fresh.
Yes, sir.
And I would love people to get the real feel of this.
I mean, we could get a remix too. I mean, like, yo, I'm making a remix this straight up.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't want to. I want to give people the full experience for this, and it's just too fresh. And I'm just not
100%.
You know, I want to give people the honest version. But let's take it here real quick. Perfect. All right. So it goes. I've grown accustomed to seeing my dreams and monologues. In terms of bars, I yawn when I'm scribbling tan and swivel through rim, craning my neck and nodding off. You would think I was hearing rhythms, but not at all. Everything was calm. Count ripples that mirror the number of riddles I resemble the bigger ponds. Skipping over the waves of emotion that might create an explosion if I rock at this rock I got in my palm. Somebody call youth. Please explain to them that the sky finna rain again and we can have the problem resolved. Every time I rhyme or write, I see light strike the same place twice, but I could be wrong. It goes against the laws of everything natural growing out of the factual statements that rearrange the arrangements of platinum from the pavement. I'm sitting archaeologically jaded under the guise of complacent, clouds overlooking the magnetism equation. waving in the wind is a symbol of what the shade is. Perhaps what I grasp when I envision the slash or a gash in the grass personifies what the blade is. That's that. You know what I'm saying?
I wish I had some sound effects to play right now. Just to click off the laptop. Gunshots or something.
Oh, no, man. Oh, no. Yeah. I mean, dude, that was, yeah, it was like really fun to write, man. It was like a really fun verse. So I'm definitely thankful that people enjoyed it. And, yeah, there's more on the way. You know,
100%, 100%. The thing is too, so there's a couple things, I mean, there's a ton of things to unpack. When you're writing something like this, right, like Blades, I feel like the start to the end is very, what's the word for it? Kind of like linear. Like it's very one idea based, but it's hard to choose the words for this. I mean, like it's very, it's not all over the place. It feels like it's very, you penned it very precisely, right? With everything that you do, right? But this specific thing, I feel like it kind of takes it to that place where it's like you kind of going on a journey with it. You know what I mean? And I feel like even the ending kind of like wraps it up perfectly. Like it gives you the title. It gives you that. It feels like something that you know you might break down to like an English class or something. You know what I'm saying? Like it's that level of preciseness, right? So what I mean to say is it possible for you to take us through it, to dissect it, and kind of get that, you know, right from the source, right?
Yeah, 100%. So do you want to take it from like the top, or you think of like just starting with like the nominal determination of it, like start with the name and then kind of just like bust down from there? Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, that works. Exactly the whole process. Like take us through the steps, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it would be an honor. So for Blades, I'm very interested in ideas that, and especially as of late, that we think to be very visceral or very sharp, but are in fact very commonplace in the world around us, right? So there's the idea of like, you know, for the longest time, it's just like, you know, you stay out in the sun for X amount of time, you know, it's bad for you because of X, Y, and Z. And then now you see this interesting societal shift in perspective where now people are, you know, trying to get as much sun as possible in lieu of the conditions of the world, and very self-aware as to this was visceral, but now it's beautiful in these ways. And so I'm very like interested in that relationship between the balance of things that, you know, everything has a good and bad to it, and or a sharp and soft, or a fast and slow kind of comparison. And I like juxtaposition a lot. So what I would do is I would like juxtapose ideas that seem as though they should go a certain direction, and maybe highlight a second or third option on those, you know. So with that being said, with Blades, the name came last. The beat, the production, the feel of it, it just started with really the first line. And I think at the time it was because, like, when we think of, you know, when we think of dreams and when we think of things that we aspire to, sometimes we have this imagery to it. But being somebody who's very connected with words and very connected with the way that words sound and building words, any writer, right, doesn't have to rap. You could be a poet, you could be a singer, or you could be a songwriter. You know, I feel like, in a way, not dissimilar to like a synesthesia kind of thing with sounds, but it's like I see a lot of the things that inspire me in words as opposed to imagery, right? So I thought it would be very interesting to build that concept as the first sentence and say, I'm seeing my dreams, bringing imagery into that aspect, but saying like, I've grown accustomed to seeing my dreams in monologues. So where people would thus see text as imagery, I'm like, I'm seeing imagery as text. Right? So I kind of build that contradiction and start the verse off from that piece. And it's like, yeah, I've grown accustomed to seeing my dreams and monologues, but in terms of bars, I yawn while I'm scribbling 10 and swivel through ram, craning my neck and nodding off. Like, so it's like, I'm seeing my dreams, but at the same time, like, but in terms of bars, this is something I do very not, just creating that nonchalant environment, right? Of saying like, this just comes to me, right? And it's not anything that's forced. And some of the most beautiful things in life aren't necessarily things that are forced. You know what I'm saying? And TIT is very swift with his works cited. This man is very, very accurate. He be picking up the little things. You know what I mean? So he knows we study. So from that, it's one of those things where the bars come. I'm aligning up the idea of like this very sleepy aesthetic, like, and saying, I'm speaking about dreams, but at the same time, I'm saying with bars, I'm creating them while I yawn. So I'm also, I'm yawning out and I'm like, okay, this guy's obviously a little bit tired, but he's still able to create these things and creating this aesthetic of sleepiness to pair with the production that I already felt as though would be much smoother than what people were to expect. And so it just pulls you into this kind of dreamscape kind of vibe. And so
the word tracking, dreams, yawning, REM.
That's exactly. So leaving these breadcrumbs of like, this is a very like, almost as if like you're tired, I'm tired, or relaxing. This is a very easy process. This is a very smooth process, right? Voice tonality, not choosing a higher resonance, but choosing to just talk in a normal tone. And all those things kind of add on to the idea of people being convinced that this is relaxed, And so.
And even for me, seeing the word, like I yawn while I'm like yawning, of course, if you're tying it in from the sleep, like just the sleep, you wake up, you yawn, you're all good, or you're about to get, you're tired, you're yawning. But it's also what yawning represents after. Like, it might seem like it's something simple, but there's way more to it. You know what I mean? In terms of just the phrase, like when something yawns, you're bored. It's very easy for you.
That's exactly it.
That's kind of what it puts in words for me. I'm scribbling 10. It's almost the whole verse. Yo, if I was bored with 10 bars, come on, man. Like, 60 bars is nothing,
That's exactly right. So it's like, it's the put, and you really hit the nail on the head, where it's just like, you're creating this idea where I guess the etymological kind of focus on yawn would be, this is a very, like, I'm very lax. I'm very relaxed. But when paired and bolstered by yawn and dream and these other words, like, oh, I'm relaxed, but I'm tired, or I'm relaxed, but I'm sleepy, or whatever the case is, right? And so, in terms of bars, I yawn while I'm scribbling 10 and swivel through gram, craning my neck and nodding off. So what do we do when we sleep? I'm creating, and I feel like this is heavy on maybe my specific writing style, but I've always incorporated, I am in like an imagery stan. Like, I love kind of being very descriptive because I like visualizing, and in fact, it helps me write. So what's interesting is I visualize something and then I'll write that thing down. And if I can't really picture what I'm writing down, it usually doesn't make the cut. Because I'm like, I want to be able to see it. Because if I'm able to see it very vividly, then I know that I'm not losing people. Because it's very easy to lose people with all the theatrics, right? With all the alliteration, with all the, I could sit here and do a double, triple time to make you feel as though there's a lot going on. But I want to create very tasteful noise, if that makes any sense. There's noise being created. If I'm alliterating in this very, very dynamic way, then it's very easy to lose people and make people feel like I'm doing a lot. But if that doing a lot equates to more yield or more results, then at that point it's like, man, I did intake more of these words, of this concept, but because I have this imagery to guide me, it doesn't feel like it's as heavy as it really is, And that's
my fault. I was gonna say another thing though. I feel like it's kind of I feel like it's the same technique, but it's from a different approach. But
Mm.
what I mean by that is a lot of people stack rhymes. You say one, two, three, but with yours, I feel like the it just gets more descriptive. Like the first one
Mm.
and then the second one, and you think it's done, and then the third one comes in too. You know, it's like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's like even not to skip over, but the last bar. So perhaps what I grasp when I envision a slash or a gash in the like, there's always more coming. Like you think that he's
Mm.
about to end the bar, but he adds like a few more things that kind of just add more to the image for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah, yeah, and that's to me like, and I can only speak about really my personal experience in terms of how I absorb music or
Mm-hmm.
stories or like narratives. But like for me, I like things that have some sort of layer. So like I would like to go back and re-listen, but in a tasteful way where if I'm re-listening and I'm like, oh man, I didn't catch that there was these like did they near rhyme this word with this word? Like I didn't even know that was a thing. You know, like those things excite me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like listening to music and having that idea of face value, one dimension. Okay, this is chill. Now the second dimension, it's like, okay, his tonality is interesting and matches the beat. Okay, with the third dimension, it's like, okay, what is he saying? Oh, okay, I kind of relate to this thing. But it's, okay, how much do you relate to it? And you try to create as many different levels as you possibly can. And like those kind of records that I hear are the ones that enamor me the most. So I think in some sort of subtle way, it's baked into my process that, yeah, I'm building this line by line. Like I didn't write this backwards, you know what I mean? Or like from the middle out, like, you know, so I did definitely write this line by line, but at the same time, I'm working on convincing people. And let me just put it this way. I'm convincing myself of the imagery that I'm speaking about,
Mm-hmm.
but until I'm convinced to a certain degree, I feel like I don't want to lose people with my complexity. It's okay to be complex, but I also want to have some level of marketability so it's a larger touch point for
Mm-hmm.
more people, right? And just take it, this very dense concept, and run it through a bunch of filters so that it was hard water at first, but now it's something that you can consume after this filtration process.
But even
So,
at the same time, it feels like it's very purposeful. You know what I mean? Like
mm,
a lot of rappers, they just you throw in words to kind of distract people. But when you
mm,
come to that level of, I feel like where you get to a certain level where you're kind of looking at everything for what it actually provides. You
mm,
can't really hide it. Like you're not, you can't really sugarcoat something. It's kind of like every piece is very. You're not doing too much, just like you said, just to lose people. You're not doing too much to convince people. It feels like you're penning something for yourself. When I hear it,
right.
it feels like you're kind of talking to yourself type thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
I don't know if that
mm.
was intentional, but that's kind of the
Well,
vibe that I get.
well, yeah, it was kind of like, and a part of the part of the aesthetic was like, I felt like I was observing my own process,
Mm.
right? And so I think that's why the metaphor of the video even was like, I'm watching me from it's like a third person experience, out of body experience, where it's just like I'm commenting on what I'm going through, but at the same time, you're also watching me go through the thing as I'm commenting on what I'm going through. I'm almost narrating this visual experience,
That's
right?
crazy. That's
Um,
crazy.
thank you, bro.
That's
So with that, it says in terms of bars, I yawn while I'm scribbling 10. And it's like I could have said writing. I could have said penning. I could have said, but it's like the thought to me, the reason I went with like scribbling, and we'll move on after because it's just like one word, but like when I put scribbling in there, I was like, okay, I like this because sometimes when we're in a rush or we don't feel as passionate towards committing to an idea, especially when we're like lax or relaxed, we kind of will just jot something down real quick or we'll just get that thing over with, right? But to say, I'm scribbling or casually just doing the thing of like writing 10 bars, is something that is paradoxical in a way because it's like, well, most would commit themselves to doing what's being scribbled,
mm.
right? So there was that little paradoxical little thing I put in there that I enjoyed. But in terms of bars, I yawn while I'm scribbling 10 and swivel through ram, craning my neck and nodding off. So there's some homophonic kind of use in there to create that to create that flow. So there's the phonetic, we spoke about it in our year one course, but we're talking about the Bubu Kiki effect of the sharpness and smoothness of words. When paired with tonality, those words become more powerful or less powerful. You have the option to bring in more of your audience or really lose a lot of your audience. So if I'm using a lot of sharp languages, the T's, the K's, things like that, or uncharacteristic sounds like Z's or something like that, then those, at least personally to me, act as flares in a verse that can be paired with smoothness depending upon what I'm trying to go for. So for this very, I want to say relaxed, very, I guess you could say spoken word-esque, kind of poetic-esque, I wanted a level of smoothness to the tonality, and in a way, the phonetic, homophonic approach to the words was also kind of smooth as well. So, you know, in terms of bars, I yawn while I'm scribbling 10 and swivel through rem, some same syllabic use there. So scribbling 10, swivel through rem, crane in my neck. So crane, like the k, like that's kind of like a harder hit, right? But at the same time, it's smooth. And then I put one flare in there to kind of make sure that people don't fall asleep while listening to the verse about, you know what I'm saying? So it's like you put that little dip in there, you know? So swivel through rem, crane in my neck, and nodding off. Off is very smooth. You would think I was hearing rhythms, but not at all. And so in a way, I feel as though that first stanza, that first 4 bars is just setting people up for what's to come, right? It's creating that setting. And we see that a lot in the stories that we read, you know, the first chapter, the first half chapter are, you know, building the narrative, building the characters, building like, this is what you're going to get set up for the rest of the verse. So if it's a 32, you know, a lot of times that's what the first 8 bars or 16 bars feels like. Like I'm just introducing this concept, and now we're getting into the meat of it, right? Now we're getting to the center of the actual concept, and then or the focal of the concept, and then from there it's like the last 4 measures are like, okay, let me carry this home, and let me not compromise the other 80% of this in the last 20%, you know. So to move right along.
Wait, hold up.
Oh yeah. Feel free to stop me, bro. Because I'm telling you, bro.
It's all good. Nah, I like
tell
that.
You, I do this run on thing.
Flow state. No. That's all good. Like even for me, it's bringing so much clarity to it. The video, the way it was, like, there's so many elements that like build up the picture way more than I had seen at first or second or third glance. You know what I'm saying? So go off. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing to it, right? The thing though too for us is like, even just the word tracking of my neck nodding off, like you nod off kind of to a beat sometimes, but it's like in a way that it's like, you know, when you're writing raps and you get in that flow state, you're just doing what you're doing. Right. That kind of puts that image in my head, because
right,
you know,
which is why in the video that's exactly what I was doing. Was
I'm like, yo, what's the guy doing in this?
Yeah.
Zoom in on his face real quick. But,
right. And it's just like, yeah, I was sitting, you know, and then I had a notepad in my lap, and I was just nodding to what was the actual beat, and but it was just in a different like frame rate, that's so you know, it's just to kind of make it feel that way. So yeah, that was that. And so the first stanza was primarily used just to set people up, you know, for what's to come. And you do casually nod your head when you're feeling the production, or you're feeling that thought, or you're feeling that energy, you know. So you would think I was hearing rhythms, but not at all. Continuing with the imagery here, everything was calm, letting you know that the idea of this rest-like state is validated. Everything was calm. Everything was relaxed.
You're reassuring the listener. You're letting
them know, hey, like, this is the reason why I'm justified in the way I feel. And this is why, you know, everything was calm. Counting ripples that mirror the number of riddles that resemble the bigger ponds. So there's a little bit of alliteration in that piece as well. But the main thing was I liked the idea or the calmness, I guess, that kind of came from, or that comes from when you think of, you know, just the subtlety of the ripples versus the choppiness and the aggressiveness of waves. So I think a lot of times, you know, people are like expecting, at least personally from me or artists maybe that have more of like an energy to their work, people are expecting the tidal waves all the time, you know, and it was just like, maybe I could show more through the capacity of just working to make ripples and something more relaxed. What's the relaxed version of that thing, that big thing? So the idea of ripples came to my head, and playing with that syllabic nature of that word, plus riffing off of the alliterative nature of that word and the moffating nature of that word. I was like, how many ways can I just flip this in this small piece and just get it out the way? So, you know,
and even with, sorry, T. With the bar counting ripples that mirror the number of riddles that resemble the bigger ponds. Ripples, is that like your thought process? You're counting the lines? Is that like something that's...
So it's crazy. So it's crazy you say that. It's crazy you say that because there's actually a couple things in there. So when we fall asleep, what do you usually count?
Sheep, bars. Damn, you're making me rap now, bro. Yo, chill, bro. Yo, chill, IT, yo.
So
sheep,
the thing, so you usually count sheep, but in this scenario, right? In this scenario, sometimes when we're rapping and we're rhyming, what are we usually doing? Starts with the F.
Oh man, you put me on the spot right now. Starts with an F. What? Freestyling, yes sir.
Close. Yeah, freestyling. There's another word though. You're flowing.
Oh, come on, bro.
So here's the thing.
I'm just kidding. I'm gonna walk out the combo.
You're good. So yeah, when you're rapping, you're flowing, right? So in a way to oppose the actual the wave and the choppiness of a wave and bringing it down to a ripple, I'm counting ripples in my dreamlike state where I'm writing these bars. I'm counting ripples, but I'm also writing a form of poetry that contains riddles. So to create that parallel, you know, and it's like these riddles like resemble the bigger ponds. So this small idea and this small concept and these small ripples or small concepts resemble the large ones as well in deep ways. And so setting up for the lines to come again. So there's a couple different aspects to that. And
it feels like also as if you're kind of like you're letting it be known that the level is the same. Like, you know, they say small fish in a big pond.
That's correct.
You're kind of letting that known that like, nah, like this material resembles that. It's very closely to that level. Like it's not, you know what I'm saying?
Well, it's interesting because it's like, you know, and that's a great point that you bring up, is that how often are the things that we think are so different actually alike in ways that we haven't noticed? And I think that's a lot of what this journey is. When you're going through this journey of self-discovery, you're going through this journey of self-development, especially through your craft. You know, it's like we hear certain production and we're like, man, I would never do that. But you don't know that on the other side of you never doing that thing might be the crux of your new style. Or maybe you wouldn't do it exactly like that, but you can take elements of that and make it your own, you know, and then create this completely different aspect that you respect and that other people respect and seems like fresh to you, right? To go back to the concept of like people feeling like, oh, I just expect this one thing from Greg, you know, there's power in me being like, let me go with a production that maybe a couple years ago I would have never chosen, and not being afraid of that impossibility, right? Or not being afraid of that option, you know?
That's super ill. It's like, goes back to what you said, the two sides to everything. Like, the balance of it,
we're 6 bars in.
Yo!
We gotta keep it pushing. You know
Yo,
what I mean?
man. Yo.
So we.
Yo, I don't even know what to say, man. Like.
So the next
Continue, please.
Yeah, the next part, yeah, everything was calm. Count ripples that mirror the number of riddles that resemble the bigger ponds. Riddles, bigger, mirror, ripples, bigger ponds. I continue the alliterative aspect. Skipping over the waves of emotion that might create an explosion if I rocket this rock I got in my palm. So creating the idea of like, you know, once I say bigger ponds, you're imagining a body of water. Now, right? And or at least for me, I was imagining this body of water. And what creates ripples? Well, when you skip a rock, it creates ripples. Interesting. Okay. So, you know, what I am doing is I'm skipping over the waves that I had previously mentioned. So I had a choice to make waves or ripples. I'm skipping over the concept of making waves, right, of emotion. There's a couple different ways to look at it. I'm skipping over the waves of emotion. So there's waves that I'm skipping over literally in terms of the style I'm choosing. There's the actual, when you're overcome by emotion, there's the literal aspect of like, I'm skipping over the waves of emotion that come, you know, through, I guess, the aspect of what it's like trying to fight, you know, your dream state. And so then being like, should I go to sleep or should I stay awake? You know, and just kind of like, you know, you're fighting these waves of emotion. And I feel as though, you know, with that leading into, you know, that juxtaposition, I like taking things that are very left and very right and mashing it together to show the value of the highness of something and then the lowness of something. So what I mean by that is
you did a whole wave right there, bro.
Yeah, bro. So it's like skipping over the waves of emotion that might create an explosion. So this whole time I've been talking about very calm things. So the idea of an explosion being added into this painting is like, wait, what? And then creating, like, just using words that are a bit more, I guess you could say, resonant to chop up the emotion. Because again, I don't want my audience to go to sleep, right? So I need a little bit of a tonality change. I need a little bit of like the verbiage I'm using, the terminology change. Those things need to adapt. So I'm talking about all these calm aspects, and then I bring in an explosion, skipping over the waves of emotion that might create an explosion if I rocket this rock I got on my palm. You know, continuing with the imagery, but saying like, as a kid, you know, when you're used to skipping rocks across the pond, you're thinking like, as a kid, you're always thinking an overstatement. There's over and understatement, as we know, right? So in a way, you can't literally rocket a rock, right? But as a kid, you're like, I'm going to throw this as hard as I possibly can to create as many ripples as I possibly can, right? And have this go as far as possible. So in a way, I was
making it skip to making it.
That's exactly right. So in a way, it's taking the rock as implementing a level of overstatement and saying, I'm going to rocket this rock. You know, it's like, imagine the waves I'll be able to create. Not ripples. Imagine the waves I'll be able to create if I throw this rock as hard as I can. So there's a little bit of like youthfulness in there as well. But
it's very descriptive too. Like skipping reminds me of the script, even the scribbling. You know what I mean? It kind of seems the word, like the same branch of words in terms of like you could use other words, but you chose to use a specific. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Me myself, I know this. I'm just kind of saying it for the people because it's like those little things, they changes everything. It's like the macro and the micro. You know, it's
the macro and micro, man, is huge. Like, and it's one of those things like if you choose to use a wrong, you know, an incorrect word. And yeah, like even with the subtle finesse to skipping rocks, like Teati was mentioning, like it's like those micro decisions, like they really do kind of, sometimes they just come to you and you don't like I'm not over here racking my brain as to how to create these things. They kind of just come out in this way. And I think through that premise, you create the environment where things just build on each other in this beautiful way. And then you can look back and say, oh, wow, like that is actually profound in X, Y, and Z way. And it kind of I just got led here in a way. So, skipping over the waves of emotion that might create an explosion. If I rocket this rock I got in my palm, I'm continuing the rhyme from the previous line of pawns, right? And then calm, right? And then off, right? And bars. And so I'm incorporating a bunch of near rhymes from the beginning of the actual piece and letting them know, like, no, we're still in this dream state, but there was just this very high energy thing that could occur in this dream state if I were to rocket this rock I got in my palm. And then I say, somebody call Houston. Please explain to them that the sky finna rain again and we have the problem resolved. And so from there, my thought is, somebody call Houston from the previous line, skipping over the waves of emotion that might create an explosion if I rocket this rock I got in my palm. So when do you call Houston in other circumstances?
When we got a problem.
Houston, we have a problem. Right? So it's Houston, we have a problem. That was one, right? So usually it involves space travel. It involves explosions. It involves accidents. Like when a rocket collides with something or explodes, it's one of those things where it's like, yo, skipping over the waves of emotion that might create an explosion. If I rocket this rock I got on my palm, somebody call Houston. Houston, we have a problem. This guy is, he's creating these amazing dreamscapes, like come assess this, right? Potential disaster. But at the same time, when we call Houston for things that are related to space travel, like rocket, there's passing the rock, Houston Rockets, basketball
James
reference
Harden.
there. Yeah. So yeah, there was definitely the reference to the basketball aspect of it too.
Man, that was
so there was that. So that's what the significance of the somebody called Houston aspect was. The Houston Rockets reference. It was a reference to literally calling air traffic control or Houston for a problem, and also just the idea of like skipping a rock across this pond, right? So
and
what happens?
And also the rock. Just to bring that up again, like you said, the rock. People refer to that in ball as if like the basketball, right?
The basketball. That's exactly right. Someone's like, "Yo, pass me the rock." They're talking about, "Yo, pass me the basketball."
But also the dope, like the nice bars. The
also,
rock, like too many lyrics for this piece, brother.
So what's crazy is I didn't even have that's the hermeneutics about it, which is kind of interesting because I had no way in my mind thought of like what I'm writing is dope, which is that's pretty wild, which people refer to as like rock, like, oh, you smoking rocks, like, so it's like one of those things where it's just like, yo, you're alluding to like this kind of drug culture. I guess you could say it's more, you're alluding to a ludic part of that bar, right? And so that's crazy because I didn't even have any intentions to include that kind of concept. It's like
an off French. You know what I'm saying? Like
exactly. It's definitely a left-hand observation. So that's really dope that you even caught that. So somebody called Houston.
Yo, we've been dropping bars back and forth the whole chat. Yo, hold on. Son said, you said that I caught. Come on, bro.
Wait, you said what?
You said you're like, that's crazy that you caught that. I see that? Yes, yo.
Bro, I've been doing this
shit
on accident, bro.
I'm just saying,
I've been doing
bro.
this shit in my sleep. No,
bro.
I'm kidding.
Yo, my fault. I had to say something, bro. Like, yo.
I honestly, see, man, this is what I'm saying, man. What's great is that conversations turn into the craft throughout time, like that's That's actually very hilarious. I didn't even catch that. Uh, but somebody called Houston, and please explain to them, like, what happens when you call Houston? That's what my mom went. My mom was like, man, what if I did call Houston? Like, you know what I mean? Houston may have a problem. What would they say? What would I say?
Bro, they trade.
What would I say if I called? Yeah, it's right.
I'm playing.
So it's like, you know, somebody call Houston, and please explain to them that the sky finna rain again, and we have the problem resolved. So what happens when that rock? Why am I calling Houston? Because I rocketed this rock from my palm. What happens when I rocket this rock that I got in my palm into the pond? I create these waves, these tidal waves, right? But what happens as these tidal waves are in the sky? Droplets are falling from the sky that would thus feel like rain. Somebody call Houston and please explain to them that the sky finna rain again, and we have the problem resolved. Like, don't worry about it. You know what I mean?
That puts the image of like you know when like a rocket fails, like explosion, like a meteor down, like it's raining fire. You know what I'm saying? And that kind of ties into another Greg Newman piece. You know what I'm saying? That's the image
heavy.
that came up in my head, buddy.
Yeah, that's heavy. That's heavy. You know, and so with that, please explain to them that the sky finna rain again. Explain to them rain again. A little bit more of a alliterative play. That we got the problem resolved. So resolved is building upon the same rhyme scheme that we had at the top of the verse. Calm, palm, ponds, you know, monologues, bar, yawn, like all those near rhymes from all the way from the top is still being continued in this section.
Like tripling down the scheme.
That's correct. Yeah, so it's just creating that anchor, right? So people can follow along and feel like, okay, he's saying a lot, but I still feel like I can hold on to at least one piece of what he's saying because of the familiarity I have with this sound, right? So, you know, tell them, so somebody call Houston and please explain to them that the sky finna rain again when we have the problem resolved. Every time I rhyme or write, I see light strike the same place twice, but I could be wrong. I don't know what came into my head in terms of like a storm occurring, but like when there's like a tsunami scenario or anything like that, I'm like, there's this massive feeling, right? And so from there, I built the idea of the improbability or just the rarity it is to be able to experience, you know, something like an artist in their element, right? And so it's like that, you know, 9 wonders of the world. Like what happens when you get to see, you know, that person do what it is that they're meant to do. It's this rarity. What other things are rare? They say lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place. But it's like when I do A or B, I'm pretty sure I saw that happen. Like I'm pretty sure the impossible is possible when I do these things. Right? And so it's building that idea of like getting used to the rarity of the circumstance, you know, that took place. Right? So it's
another thing too. So it's adding on to the scheme of the whole, like you said, the whole storm, the whole weather, the whole thing. But it's
that's exactly right.
That idiom of light strike twice. So very ill in that piece. I have a question too with this bar though. When you say, but I could be wrong. Maybe if you could elaborate a bit on that piece, because to me it felt like a sidestep.
For sure.
Right. So yeah.
For sure. So and it was like I would say first and foremost, how we doing on time? Like,
oh, but we're good, IT. I mean, you know, it's your decision, man. Like, my phone is red batterying right now, but not too bad. So you know what I'm saying? It's
okay. I mean, in terms of like, do we have 2 minutes or like what?
Oh yeah, you're right. The live is about to do it too, right? Probably maybe like a good 5.
A good 5 minutes.
Yeah, because I think I started the live at 6:05.
Okay, fantastic.
So we should be all right.
Okay.
Then time flies, man.
Yeah, so we'll just speed up this process. So, to go quickly into that section, I'm convincing my audience that all these things are taking place, and I'm convincing them to like, look, call Houston, we got the problem resolved. I think light strikes in the same place twice, but it's a myth. It's a myth. You know, take my word for it or not. You know? So it's like, you know, every time I rhyme or write, I've seen light strike the same place twice. But I could be wrong.
Just in case. Okay.
You know, just in case, you know, but I could, and it's keeping it light to say like, you know, I could.
Yo, I gotta do this, man.
You got it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So with that being said, that's so hilarious. I didn't even mean to do that either. So with that being said, it's one of those things that, at least for me, it makes things more succinct and it chops the energy up. It's the same way as the phonetic boo-boo kiki thing. It's like I'm using that one flair to sidestep out of the way of like, and again, make it more ludic, make it a little bit more calm, a little bit more relaxed. You know, saying, I do this, I do that, I do this when I do that, I do this when I do that. Or I could be wrong. And they're like, wait, what do you mean? You're like, I don't know, I'm a human being, you know? I'm a regular person.
Cause that's
and then they're like, oh, yeah, you are, right. And then you go right back into your bag.
Right. Because that piece threw me off, and I'm like, what? Like,
right.
But that's the effect. That's the whole point of it. So,
yeah, for sure. So, you know, with that, but I could be wrong. And using that framework to lead me into what would be the conclusion of the verse, you know. So I see light strike in the same place twice, but it could be wrong. It goes against the laws of everything natural, growing out of the factual. So the thing about it is, with this lightning striking in the same place twice, people say scientifically it's just not a thing, right? So I say, you know what? You're right. It could go against the unnatural, right? It can go against the aspect of, you know, finding, I guess you could say, it could go against the natural laws or the laws of the natural world, right? And so I'm saying every time I rhyme or write, I see light strike the same place twice, but it could be wrong because it goes against the laws of everything natural. That's growing out of the factual. So the natural facts as we know them, you know, could be out the scope of saying or out the scope of me doing what it is that I'm doing, right? So out of the fact, it goes against the laws of everything natural, growing out of the factual statements that rearrange the arrangements of platinum from the pavement. So it grows out of the factual statements that I'm saying, right, or that are said in regards to lightning striking twice, you know, that rearrange the arrangements of platinum from the pavement. So if lightning striking twice is possible, then what else is possible? So it rearranges the arrangements of what we know as to be minerals in the ground. When I thought, okay, lightning striking the ground, what's in the ground? Okay, well, minerals are in the ground. But at the same time, when we write, more often than not, we find ourselves in a place where, like, we are reaching for these mineral-like composites as artists, like platinum and gold records. So what I mean when I say that is, right, statements that rearrange the arrangements of platinum from the pavement, getting it out of the dirt. I'm sitting archaeologically jaded under the guise of complacent clouds. So I'm still digging deeper for what it means to understand these myths and understand the impossibilities and possibilities of what we're going through. Jade comes from the ground. Platinum also comes from the ground. So I'm sitting like an archaeologist. I'm sitting archaeologically jaded under the disguise of complacent clouds that are just watching this all happen, right? And I'm underneath these clouds watching it all happen, archaeologically digging for the minerals, the gems of the circumstance that come from me unearthing the myth of the lightning striking. Right?
Bars. I had to say something, bro. Like my head was steaming. Let me get
This one, this I would say this section is probably one of the most dense sections. You know, and I think I was definitely worried to say, not worried, but I was definitely interested to not lose people from here with that sidestep of like, I could be wrong. But to me, it was powerful to, once I said that I could be wrong, it was very important for me to get as deep or as heavy in gravity as possible right after that to reestablish, like, you know, there's levels, right? So it's like you thought you had a little decent balance on the concept, and then I pull you all the way in to the point where it's like, wait. There's a lot of alliterative scenarios going on here, you know, arrangements, statements, arrangements, you kind of rearrange, platinum from the pavement, archaeological. So yeah,
you take it to the core of things. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes, exactly. So this is where it was like the core of this guy.
So like, back to
this guy, the core. That's crazy. That's so crazy. Yeah, you rap, bro. You rap for real.
Come on, bro. I got this letter. I'm sitting here like, yo, man, I do this too.
Yeah. No, we all know you do, bro.
Crazy,
we all know you do.
Nah, it's crazy. Like my, I'm at a loss for words, bro. It. Just keep doing your thing, bro. Like,
man, thank you, bro. Thank you, bro. You too, bro. You too. So, I'm sitting archaeologically jaded under the guise of complacent clouds. Clouds are above us, overlooking the magnetism equation. The world is a magnet to your core joke, right? So the thing is, like, you know, the clouds are overlooking the magnetism equation of how we're all here on Earth and experiencing things. Clouds overlooking the magnetism equation. Waving in the wind is a symbol of what the shade is. Clouds shade you. They create the wind. They're waving in the wind. Clouds are overlooking us, looking down. Maybe they would literally wave to us if they could. I don't know. You know, so I'm looking up at these clouds, overlooking the magnetism equation. Waving in the wind is a symbol of what the shade is. So perhaps what I grasp when I envision a slash or a gash, then the grass personifies what a blade is. And it kind of puts you in a place of like this tranquil scene of the pond and the clouds and the light. And then it's just like you envision this grassy field. But to go back to my initial statement of the paradoxical and putting the positive or the smoothness and the rigidness of these terms together, we see grass all the time, but we rarely depict the adjective of a blade of grass with grass when we think of a blade being sharp or a blade being used to do something very sharp, but showing almost the beauty of that sharpness.
But it also ties everything back into the soft and the sharp.
That's exactly
right. That's the craziest.
That's exactly right.
And
so that's the verse, man.
The image scheme to me, it feels like it's the ending when everything's okay. You know what I mean? Exactly, like when you watch like an anime or a show, when they show the nice breeze and like the story ends and the heroes are happy. And,
yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. And it great. At least for me, I was very pleased with the way that it wrapped up because I was like, I wanted it to still feel calm. I wanted it to still feel dreamlike. And to your point, when you think of that tranquility, you think of nothing but rolling fields of grass. You feel like you see, or just what it means to be in the most natural states. And so, in a way, I found power bringing it back from, because again, mind you, 2 lines ago, I was beating people up with the alliteration, right? So it was just like, wait, you know, like rearrange the arrangements of statements that are like, what are you saying? And so from there, it's taking all that and then slowing it down. I did the sidestep of like, I could be wrong, very, very dense right after that for a couple lines, and then slow down. It's like a roller coaster. It goes up, boom, it hits, it goes super hard, does a couple turns, and then right before it ends, it slows down.
It's like the whole piece is like the genius behind it. Is like the whole piece is again like the balance.
That's exactly
so
right.
many different layers, even in terms of writing, like complex simplicity, like high words, low words. You know, like that's kind of ill, brother. I don't even know what to say, man. Like, yo,
thank you, man. I'm honored to be a part of this. I'm honored to be a part of this this series, man. And I thank you for hosting the space and putting this space together for artists and rappers and people who want to be a part of this and break down their writing processes. You know what I mean? So I'm humbled that you enabled the opportunity for me to do my thing, and I'm definitely looking forward to what else I can learn from other people's episodes. You know what I mean? I'm just thankful that I had an opportunity to sit down and submit mine. This is an amazing process. You know what I mean?
Thank you, IT. I appreciate that. For me, it's an honor to be able to dive right in with you and with all the ITs and with everybody to kind of learn something new. And I feel like with this piece, there's a lot of like a whole new world opened up for me in terms of writing styles. You know what I mean? Like not really looking for the entendres, kind of seeing the whole other realm of it. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like it's a whole different pen game. And I feel like I kind of see that. Sorry, I got the low power. Once I kind of see that, it just opens a whole new world of like possibilities in terms of writing schemes. It's like things that I might have not even understood. You know what I'm saying? Like you see something from one way, and that was kind of the same thing that with some rappers when they use even entendres. It's like the whole thing is kind of an entendre. You know what I mean? In terms of like you might hear something one way, and then you kind of feel like you know everything about it. But then when you realize, you're like, yo, like, this is crazy. And you get that dopamine. You know what I'm saying? You get that, like, and that kind of ties the whole
it's that
thing
angular,
back in,
it's that angular gyrus action. And like, I'm actually kind of interested as a curious, just tinge on things. Why do you feel as though you weren't looking for metaphor or weren't looking for like the super deep aspects? Like, what about this verse did you feel as though made you approach the listening process differently out of just pure curiosity?
So for me, myself, originally, it's like you kind of hit the nail on the head. You kind of hit where I was expecting something. You know what I'm saying? Just coming into it, like off top, like this is what I expect. And then when it's like, yo, I'm shooting a video, I have something in my head that I'm seeing. So then when I get the complete opposite, I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'm trying to like break it down and like I'm getting pieces of it. But at the same time, it's like I'm just confused because I'm like, I'm trying to find why you would do this approach versus the regular approach, but it's like I couldn't grasp it yet. You get what I'm saying? It's like you know how like you psych out your opponent, you're playing chess, you psych him out, you do like how Bobby Fish, he does something, and it's like you're just confused. So I'm sitting there like to me it's bars, it's crazy, but it's like knowing like the type of person you are, it's like I'm missing something. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it upsets me when I'm like breaking down bars and I don't get the like, what am I missing? It's just cheap. Like, you know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, like what is he hiding?
Down,
what is he hiding?
Exactly.
Where is it?
Like, there's no way how I broke it down is like that's there's more to this for sure. So like, I can't see it. But once you break it down, it's like you realize like, oh my God, like this whole thing is like a chess move. This whole thing is like everything from it. Like my reaction is like, I feel like I've gotten baited. You know what I'm saying? Like you purposely led me down this route and it just confused me. And then it's like, you're giving me the answers like, yo, here are the answers. And it's like, damn, like, you know what I'm saying? It's just, you get stunned. You know what I mean?
Honestly, bro.
Honestly,
man, I just heard the production and I just wrote it, bro. I'm not going to lie to you and say I didn't put the pen down with like, oh, I'm going to finesse the world with this one. Like, I was just like, I'm just going to do something I don't normally do and I don't know what that looks. It's just like getting into like a stretch you don't normally do, and then people being like, oh, wow, you're actually better at that than you thought. And you're like, I guess. Yeah, it worked out, huh? And like that's literally how the process felt, It was just, and again, I love depth, but my main focus was like I don't want to, and some of like the constraints that I built for myself was, I don't want to go too crazy hard. I don't want to lose people. That's the main thing, is like, in the spaces that you and I inhabit, we can go and leave the planet and do these crazy type of rhymes, right? Mm-hmm. But when I do public facing things, or things that I know my listeners will be absorbing, I want to keep things as palatable and as digestible as possible. Mm-hmm. So yes, there is that complexity to it, but at the same time, if you wanted to sit down and not even hear what I'm saying, but listening to the tone at which I'm saying it and the flow of it, you can mm-hmm. still get the feeling of a sense of completion mm-hmm. after it's done, right? Where it's like, okay, this feels like I just went through something like palatable. If you're just reading it, you're like, okay, there's way more here, right? And I think that was kind of the interesting juxtaposition of, maybe I should put the words in the video. Mm-hmm. Because I think with the tonality, I don't want to be misheard or things like that, because it might be words that people are hearing me say that they might not have thought that's what I said. So again, making it as taking a complex idea or an idea that has layers to it and making it as literally simple as I possibly can. And that was my mm-hmm. goal.
Mm-hmm. Well, you knew, man. You knew. but yo,
yeah, right.
For me, it's like, now, it's just a different level to the pen. You know what I'm saying? Like to a point where it's like, if something you're doing wasn't even your full, like you subconsciously did something, that's even crazier. Like it feels like you position yourself in a way where you, whether or not you did this intentionally, where it's like you catch the listener off guard. But not only is it like again, to reference, I think it was the Sly Watts IT conversation where we spoke about how Doom does that, how he like leads a listener and then he gets you to fill it in. This is like a whole different thing because it's on like a concept level. It's like you think you're going one way and it's like there's so many different, like, you know what I'm saying? And it's super, to me, it's super ill because it's like you might just hear it again, like you said, versus actually dissecting it. And it's a complete different experience. And it's like there's different layers to dissecting things too, right? Like some bars, you just dissect them, you're just getting the literary devices, or you're getting specific entendres or however. But to me, a piece like this is like, there's so much, and I still know that there's a lot more to unpack in the last bars because we are kind of rushing a little bit towards the end. So there is still a lot more. So for me, myself, it's like I'm going to try to delve into this again. And again, for the viewers who are watching this later, make sure you guys check it out. It's called Blades. It should be the post right before this. It's also on Greg Newman's page. One more thing for you before we wrap it up, because we're getting close.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there anything else that you know you're working on that you want to let the people know about? Is there anything else that you kind of?
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. So for everybody who's listening, feel free to listen to Blaze, the verse that we broke down in this segment. In addition to that, feel free to check out my personal catalog. I have a record I released this year called Stay Down. I also have more music on the way. I have more content on the way. So if you're not already, following the journey, feel free to tap in. I'll be more than happy to have you. And we take care of you over on this side.
Yes, sir.
With the musics and the raps and whatnot. So we take care of you on this side. So
and
if you're looking, that's it. Yeah. If you're looking for experiences that might change your perspective, I think the best music and the best artists set their fans free with their work and unlock different levels of themselves and their fans or their supporters or their listeners' world. I think the best artists set their fans free.
100%. 100%. I'm just leaving that at that. Let's just leave it at that. Let's leave it at that.
We out.
We out. We out. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Keep doing your thing, man. Legendary.
You know what I'm saying? Bro, you are too, man. Peace, yeah.
Peace,
Have a good day.
You too, brother. Take care.
Later.
Later.